All right, well, let's go ahead and get things started, Jen. So if I can all direct everybody's attention to the screen. Once again, just want to thank you for coming. Please make sure your microphone is muted, you have your camera turned off, and you do not share any screens during this presentation. That is required for recording and for us to upload this video to YouTube. Today, we're going to be talking about fall festivities and everything fall. It's crazy to think how August just flew by, but here we are. So I also want to point out that if you don't already, please follow us on social media for the latest buzz. We are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Well, other social media, you will find RecDesk there. So please check us out. You have great helpful things on there, such as tips and tricks every Tuesday. All righty. So what are we talking about today? We are going to be talking about fall events. Whether it's food trucks, farmers markets, vendors, escape rooms, you name it. If it's something that happens in the fall, we are going to try to cover it today. So this could be a great refresher. It could be showing you something that you've never thought RecDesk was capable of doing. So it's going to be a really great time, and I'm excited for this content. Speaking of content, who do we have today? We have myself, Andrew. I will be your friendly neighborhood moderator today. Any questions that you may have, please feel free to type in the chat, and I will make sure to get those to Jen when we have a break in the presentation. Jen is our queen of fall festivities. She's going to talk to you and teach you how to do everything fall in RecDesk today. So once again, thank you for joining us. I'm going to go ahead and shortly post the support center in the chat here, so you can either email or call with anything that's not fall related or anything that we may not cover today in there. And also be sure to check out our support center for handy step-by-step guides on anything that you may be doing in RecDesk. So with that, Jen, are you ready to take over here?
I am.
All righty, handing the ball to you.
Oh, as a reminder to anyone new coming in, please make sure you do not share your face. It says start video on the Zoom. Please don't select that. This video is being recorded and it will pick up anybody's video that does show, so it will pick up your face. But all right, everyone, welcome to the fall festivities. So some of this we're going to go through, and we're going to go through some reminder steps along the way. A lot of you who have not done fall festivities before, or those of you who maybe haven't before with RecDesk and you'd like to now, but it's been a while since you've had to put anything new in your system, I just want to remind you that on the admin tab and under manage custom lists, that this is where you're going to go to add facility types, program types, or fees that you may need to add in, or general ledger codes that all correlate to any of your new fall festivities that you plan on having this season. Now, as a reminder, any general ledger code or sales tax, that information does need to be entered by a director in the system. Other items can be entered by your assistant directors or your directors in the system. And remember, when they click in, you're just going to click on add new fee type. For new names, same for program types, as well as for facility types. And once you have all of that information built there, then you can decide how it is that you would like to present to your public what fall festivities you have going on. So some examples I've already built. I have vendor registration for a trade show. Now, due to the fact that this particular trade show has a maximum number of people that can enroll, I did need to do it per date, especially if you don't do your trade shows where they sign up and they get a booth at the show for 1 month at a time or a certain period. This is going to make it easier for them to be able to sign up for this online from home. And when you go through here and you build your program, please make sure that you do set the enrollment maximum if you have a limited number of tables that are available or vendors that you're allowed to have at that event. Now, I did add this in as a reminder. Something like a vendor event, if it's something where there is an age minimum where you need your vendors to be a certain age in order to participate, please make sure you set that age minimum and set the enforce as of date. Otherwise, you may get somebody who signed their kid up for soccer and they only created a profile for their kid. sign up under that child's name to be one of your vendors. And yes, I have seen that happen. It is a little bit silly, but it's one of those things just to give you a heads up for. You need to make sure that you build your schedule. So something like the trade show, you can actually put this information in here for when the trade show is going to be taking place. Now for fees. I have an example here where if you don't have limited space, or maybe you just know that due to the size of the space, you're never really going to get too many vendors. You're not going to sell too many booths, that type of situation. Or maybe you have the ability to just continue expanding. We all know that certain situations are different than others. You can create fee names called 1 booth, 2 booth, and I even have another option in here for a 3rd booth. And what this would allow is for people to be able to go online and say that they want to have 1 booth, 2 booths, or 3 booths during that vendor event. Now, this is something to keep in mind. Naming these fees will not affect the enrollment maximum because they're just signing up as 1 person. Therefore, it's only 1 person against the maximum. So keep that in mind when you're building this. I know that some organizations, what you've done is you've just monitored this by watching the dashboard, and somebody's monitoring that program. And once it gets really close to that maximum, you're manually shutting off registration because you're waiting for people to select those fees. Just keep that in mind. Now, if you have forms that you need your vendors to fill out, and we can go over how to build a form or some basic questions for a form, that's something you're going to want to assign to to the program. So if I go to my Flex forms, I can start a new form and I can say that this is my fall festivities form, and I can create my document. So this could be vendor business name, and I can make that a required field. This is a field that drops in automatically, but if I don't need it, I can delete it. I can add in another field so that I can have the main contact name and the main contact's phone number. And that may sound like a very strange thing to say, but as somebody who loves to volunteer for a lot of fall events that deals with vendors, the person who meets us on site is very rarely the person who fills out those forms online. So this type of information is super helpful. You can even add in additional fields like address and say if different, then member profile. You can add in several other elements. You can ask them for things. So if they need to provide certain types of documents or insurance documents, you can ask them to upload that here. If you switch this over to multiple files, they can actually upload up to 5 files or 25 megabytes in one document. And you can even use the rich text area to type in a specific vendor waiver that they would need to sign off on and add in a signature field and make that required. That way they have to respond to that form. And once I save changes, immediately back on my program, I now see that on my forms list when I go into edit mode. And I can make this either a new form each time or a shared document. Now, if it is a shared document, what that would mean, and it might be helpful for some of your vendors, is if they sign up online and they're signing up for multiple dates, instead of having to fill out the form multiple times, it's just going to copy that form from one date to the next. Now, I don't recommend the allow partial. It does allow them to skip required fields, and then you tend to have to follow up with them to make sure that they do answer the questions. But if you do have a circumstance where that would be good, please make sure to check that box off. Now, for those of you who have forms that are required after you've accepted their vendor registration, maybe there's some food inspection report because they're a food vendor, or some additional documentation, you can always add a second form here that allows your staff to upload it. and mark this as internal use only. That way the form's only completed if your staff needs to complete it. And that will allow them all to be able to register online and get you all of their vendor information for each of those trade shows that you'd sign up. Now, another cool piece to go over is the expense tab. If you have expenses to run the trade show and you want to know how much money are we actually making running these trade shows, and it's only based on booth rentals, it's not based on like a 10 daily entrance type of fees, you can come in here and type that information, and that will allow you to see how much you actually earned from this program on the program detail report. Or for those of you who do like our revenue by program reports, it would also update that information there to tell you how much revenue you received for that program, less expenses. Now, I also used a trunk or treat example here, but I want to show you something super cool. If you have something like a vendor registration or some type of event where you need it to be a daily sign up, so we do need you to do the maximum and a program per show, but if it repeats on the same pattern, after you get the first program in or the first 2 programs in, you can click on this actions button and copy selected programs. This is a super cool shortcut. It's going to allow me to add quickly 14 days to my program dates. See how it pushes those dates out automatically for anything that had a date to it. And that would allow me here to just come and say, I want to update this program name because now this is technically going to be the program for the 29th. And this one would be for October 6th. And then continue. Now it does tell you here, draft mode. This is something to pay attention to. When you make programs from that bulk copy feature, they don't show here on your current and future list. You need to swap it over to this draft mode. That's a filter right here. That way, if you're sure it looks good, or maybe you're building programs, but you're not sure that they're going to happen yet, you can get everything built, including your schedule. That way, once you get the go ahead, you just hit the publish now button. And that immediately becomes visible not only to your staff on the current and future list, but also to your public on the community site. Now, before we move on to using memberships for those of you who do like weekly farmers markets or things like that, where they are coming and sign up for periods of time, do we have any questions?
Not at the moment, Jen. I'll keep an eye on the chat, and this is a great reminder for anybody that has questions. Please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will go ahead and get those answered for you.
All right, so now I'm going to head into memberships. I love using memberships for things like farmers markets. I know myself, I like going to farmers markets, and it tends to be the same people that you see week after week. Some stay for the entire season. You all know that you have multiple types of vendors in your own area. But if you decide to run a farmers market, I do like using memberships for it for a couple of reasons. Number one, this is something that if you want to really control who these vendors are, you can make it so that instead of this saying online enrollment, yes, that you just uncheck the box and make it so they can read it and know that they can come in, what documentation they need to have, anything like that. And then you can register or enroll them in this membership. Now in memberships too, we have this great ability to set membership periods. So I'm in New England, out here in Connecticut. We unfortunately have really harsh winters, so our farmers markets tend to shut down about late October, and they don't reopen again until around the early springtime period. So a definitive start and end date would work better for somewhere like Connecticut or anywhere else where you may have seasonal farmers markets instead of yearly farmers markets. Now, for those of you who are very blessed to be able to have farmers markets year round, please keep that as the open and ongoing, because you don't need to have definitive start and end dates. This default membership duration, this is the important piece, because if you're really having people sign up and they're signing up week after week because that's how you want it to be, you want the farmers market to be able to swap out who's there every week, you can set that as the default duration. Make sure that you also state any enrollment periods, enter any description or notes. It is important to connect your general ledger code, but something to note and to bring up. If any of you forget to add your general ledger code to anything in RecDesk and you go to run a revenue report and it says none, if you go back to the item that you built and click edit and assign that general ledger code that should have been there all along, and then rerun those reports, you're going to be able to get everything to reallocate. We are fluid like that, so keep that in mind. If you ever think that you may have made a mistake, it's easy enough to go back and correct it. Enrollment maximums. One of the great reasons of using memberships for something like your farmers market is that if somebody decides that they're no longer going to participate, whatever crops they sell, it's end of season, so they're going to be leaving at, the end of August. That would allow a spot to open up for anybody who may want to start selling things come September. So that enrollment maximum will be fluid based on who has an active membership still. You can either set this up, if there's an enrollment maximum, please only set this up as one booth because you will need to enroll that person multiple times in order to have it count against the enrollment maximum. Now, if you, again, don't really need that enrollment maximum, you're pretty open spaced, you can always come here and create the fee names, very similar to how we did in the programs. And same as programs, you can even attach a form. Now, when it comes to memberships, I do want to clarify. I feel that memberships should have shared forms for something like this because it's going to be easier for that form to just constantly roll over from week to week or month to month and them not have to complete it over and over and over again. Now, this also allows you a couple of things. Now, earlier I used this example where I can put people in who are future memberships because maybe I have somebody who says, hey, I really want to participate in the farmers market, but due to the nature of the items that I sell, these are the 2 weeks that would actually be best for me. So your office staff would be able to go to that membership. And if the person says, hey, I can't come in until the first Monday of December, you can connect that right here and push that out. Now, please note that if they sign up online, it always goes to today as the current day. So it would give them 1 week from the day they sign up. The ability to change dates like this is something that your staff has the ability to do, but not the public. And you do want to hit this search button. We want them to have profiles before they start. And whether you go there and you search for them and you don't see a profile, pause for a moment and just recommend that they pull out their cell phones and just create a community account real fast. It takes less than 2 minutes, especially for those who have autofill turned on their phones, and it will leave them with the ability to log in later in case you do need them to do something on their own from home. And with every membership, remember, per vendor to check out. If you do not do that, you can end up having multiple vendors on the same invoice, and that would be an issue later on. And you can create the invoice and either send it to them if they're going to be paying it by a clickable link, or you can process payment now if you are collecting payment at the time that you're putting in that membership. Now, while we're on the money tab, I'm going to actually go into the payment plan templates because I'm just going to show you a very basic payment plan that I'm just going to name auto renew with a number of payments 1. Now, the reason I'm setting something up super basic like this is because I want to be able to make it so that somebody who signs up for my farmers market gets put on auto renew. So if I go in and I go to sign somebody else up and they come in and they want to have, one booth, what I can now do is I can put them on auto renew. And now I have a payment plan. A payment plan is required in order to put a member on auto renew, regardless of if it's at the time you're putting them in the membership or editing it later. And then payment plan method. You have enroll in auto pay and then send installment due email. Enroll in auto pay is only going to work if they have a stored credit card. You'll see with this profile, I do not have a stored credit card. So that means that I cannot use this piece. I need to use the send installment due email. That will tell them when the membership ends after 1 week that the $50 is due again. And it'll automatically create an invoice and the email and everything will all be connected. Now, before I continue, does anyone have any other questions?
No questions at this time, Jen.
All right. All right, so now I'm going to show you all the escape room. And don't worry, because after the escape room example, I'm going to show you how this looks on the community side of things. Now, I am using the escape room example because we actually have a RecDesk customer out there who uses us for an escape room every year. And I thought it was the coolest idea. And they have done it successfully and have continued to do it successfully. So I'd like to just share that idea with everyone. Now, I wanted to bring up something that I showed earlier today is I used an embed code from Flickr for photos because something like an escape room or some of these fall activities that you're posting, they may have a photo that goes along with it. Now, Flickr, and I want to clarify this, Flickr is the site that we know is free. And we know that you would be able to get a embed code that not only works successfully, but is also something that works with RecDesk itself. There are other options out there. They are a little bit more techy. So it's one of those, if you cannot use Flickr for some reason, please reach out to us at support@recdesk.com. We have an alternative workflow we can give you that we know is free. But some of the other sites that used to have embed options seem to have removed them. So I'm going to show you real fast on my Flickr account. After you've uploaded a photo, go to your photo stream. I don't know why from the camera roll, it doesn't work, but photo stream is where the embed code lives. If you click on your image on Flickr from the photo stream and then hit the share button here, it will give you an embed code. Now I'm going to copy it real fast. I'm not going to save this, but I'm just going to post this up here so you can see the minor difference. So one minor difference is this width here, and there is height. Anytime you use an embed code in order to have photos on RecDesk, we do recommend that between the quotes that you change it to 100% for the width and delete out the height. What that's going to do is it's going to allow the photos on devices or tablets or smaller screens just to naturally adjust size because the embed code did not come with that. We just want to make sure that 100% will do that for you. And I understand it looks ugly here. You do have to hit the save button in order to confirm that it worked. Now, notes is where you should be posting an embed code. However, when it's a facility, you do have the image photo embed gallery. Now, this is the same photo I just uploaded down here. So for your facilities, if you wanted to upload an image, you don't need to use the notes section because we provided an area. Now, for check in and check out, I think it's a great idea for something like an escape room for you guys to use our check-in feature because you can check each person in and also click the checkout button saying that they have now left the escape room. And you can have a custom look back period for however long period of time would cover check-in to when they need to be out and the next group through. That way your staff knows how many people they're supposed to be looking for in the building. And if they happen to be members of your organization, they even know that person's name. This piece right here for something like an escape room may not be necessary, but if any of your fall activities do require some type of approval process in order for them to get the reservation time, please make sure to check this box off. That's going to make it so that make sure that all your online reservations come in as pending instead of an actual reservation. And this include pending and conflict checking box right here. That's just going to make it so that someone can't request the same day and the same time period at the same time. If you uncheck this because you have unlimited number of requests that you can have come in, please know you can do that. Just uncheck that box. And if you'd like forms to be attached to any of your facilities, the same way as we did so with programs and memberships, you just go to the Forms tab within that facility and click on Edit and assign the form to it. Now, online reservations. This is the piece that's going to be the most helpful for your staff because this is going to list all the start times. Now, I made this one earlier. And I did make a little bit of a joke, just telling people that they had 30 minutes to escape. I'm going to have fun with this. It is an escape room. Sorry, everybody. And I put the start date and the end date that this is running till. It is not a rolling schedule because once this ends, it's not going to continue further. If you needed membership restrictions for something, you can always put that in. However, this example, it's not going to work. And as you can see, I made some escape room times. Now I only made it from 8 a.m. to 4. And I know this may sound silly, but I did give myself a 5-minute gap because I had this as selecting the start time. I like saying 8 to 8:05. I come from a family where half of us are 15 minutes early and the other half we have to lie to and say that we need to be there 15 minutes early to make sure we're only 5 minutes late. So that kind of gives a little bit less stress on the members of the public who are coming in for that escape room time, who may have hit, some traffic or an extra stoplight or two, or something happened trying to leave the house. They're running a few minutes behind, that they're not going to feel as overwhelmed to get there immediately for the top of the hour. Now, I just chose a fee name individual here, but if you'd like to add a fee name that goes along with this or anything along those lines, please feel free to add that. And then you type in how much the escape room costs. Now, this is not per person. This would be per party. So it would basically be for some people I've seen add multiple fees here where they pay $25 because their escape room party is for people or less. And then sometimes I do see groups charge a little bit more for bigger groups. Make sure you post that information so that the public's aware. Other groups, they don't charge it online because they tell people that they're paying per person once they arrive. And that's okay too. I just want to make sure that I show all of these options so that whichever workflow works best for you all is set up. You can also set it up so that the person can only make one reservation per day. So something like an escape room, if you had somebody who just decided they wanted to rent the entire day, you can prevent that from happening. And also required lead time. If you needed a required number of days in advance for them to say they want to use the escape room, please feel free to set that. But the most important piece when it comes to making sure your online availability schedules are available to the public is this button here. You want it to be red. You want it to say disable online reservations because that's telling you that if you select that, that's what it's going to do. So if you're looking at red, it means that on the community site, I'll be able to go and it means on the community site, I can go over here, I can sign in, and I can go to my facilities list and I can see the reserve button right here for the escape room. Now I did set the dates up for September, so I do need to push forward for a month and I can click on the reserve. I could say how many people that you should be expecting to come to the escape room. Check off my start time that I'd like to use, and I can add it to my cart. Oh, hang on. I apologize. As you see, I'm getting yelled at because I used that example, that user as an example earlier. So it's telling me I can't. So I'm going to use another household member just to get around that right now. And then I can go to checkout. Now this waiver screen, I'm going to pause. It just says text HTML here, but that is that hold harmless waiver that we'll ask you for when you first come on. This is essentially that checkout waiver that they have to hit I accept or they can't continue. If they hit I decline, they get stuck in this unlimited loop where it just stays in the shopping cart. So they have to hit the I accept. If there's forms, they would appear on the next screen. And then we're going to use an example payment with a fake credit card. Let's hope I remembered. And there we go. I have successfully used that time to rent out the escape room. Now my director screen, right on my dashboard, under recent reservations, I can see that information here. I can click on it and I can see the details for it. One thing I did not do, and I'm going to apologize and show you real fast, is that if anyone does click on the escape room, this is how the image will look. And this is how it would look if it's in the proper place where we ask you to put photos for your facility. Anytime you put it in notes, it will have that orange hue to that background. All right. Now, do we have any questions about using that facility feature?
Jen, it looks like we escaped that. We escaped questions on that section there. However, I do want to let people know that I have embedded a link with more information on how to embed pictures from Flickr into the chat. So if you guys are not using the chat, please check it out, take a look there. And any questions that come up, there is no such thing as a bad question. Feel free to put in that chat there and we will be happy to answer that for you. But Jen, you can keep on going.
Awesome. All right, so the last piece I like to go over is point of sale. Now, I'm making the joke about pumpkin sales, very much like you'll hear me talk about flower sales during the Mother Day time period. If you sell any of those type of items seasonally, or maybe you just have an event that runs over the course of 3 days, if you want to use RecDesk just to track the sales, that way you can charge their credit cards, you can have, some type of basic inventory created for it, and you can track the revenue, how much cash was collected that day, checks, things like that in our system. Please feel free to do so. I really love seeing when our system is used like that. It's important though to go to item categories first so that you can create those items and then you can go in your sale items. Now, a cool feature that was released that for anyone who does not know this is that you do have the ability to archive and then unarchive point of sale items. In the past, you could not do so, but we did add that ability so that you could unarchive any sale items for your point of sale. So if you wanted to essentially archive them once the fall is over, you can unarchive them when next fall comes back up. And then if you have them as items, you guys can just use, a simple computer setup somewhere or if it is not credit card swiping, you can always use something like a tablet and just click for the number of items that's being sold, check out. If people are paying cash, you can just click on cash and type in how much money they gave you. And it'll even remind them how much funds they should be giving as change. And here's the cool thing. If they don't want a printed receipt, some people don't want a receipt at all, but you could also have the option of emailing it. So if your system is set up or if somebody wants their receipt emailed to them, just click on email receipt. And type in the email and hit send email. Now, those are some of my favorite fall activity workflows. If no other questions have come in, I'm just going to do some reminders that our support center is right here. It's that big orange button. It's a great resource that you can come to and you can search for quick builds and tutorials in our system. Like if you wanted to a reminder for when you're creating a program, you can just come in here and there is a step-by-step guide to explain it. Also on our homepage, if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have our submit support request button here. That will link you right over with the support team and start a message. So let us know what it is we can help you with, or you can give us a call. And down on the right, we do have our links to our Facebook page, our Twitter account, and our YouTube channel. So for those of you who are visual learners, please feel free to check out our YouTube channel. Also, if you follow us on Facebook, I know Andrew brought it up earlier, we are trying to do tips and tricks every Tuesday to help you guys out. So if you follow us on Facebook or Instagram, you'll get to see those tips or tricks. And also here on the director screen on the right-hand side, there is this green resource button. If you select that, we have some videos for helpful workflows, as well as some short links to other previous PowerUp videos. You can also search our support center from right here as well. And that's all we, oops, sorry. I was going to say that's all I have to go over for fall activities. If anyone has any questions or workflows that they'd like to have brought up that I may have missed, please type them into the chat box and we can go over them.
Yes, and just to add on to that, Jen, great point on that green resource tab. If anybody's looking for the copy of this recording later on to watch it again or to show it to other staff, please go ahead and check out the green resource button and it'll be in there under the PowerUp videos. And if nobody has any questions, Jen and I will stay in the room here till about 2:50, so about another 6 minutes, in case anybody has any questions. But if not, I just want to thank everybody again for joining us today. I hope you have found this helpful and you're excited for your fall activities coming up at your agency. If you have any other questions that come up later, maybe you watch this, something comes to mind, feel free to reach out to us. I did post that support email and the support phone number in the chat. So you can always reach out to that or to your CSM, your customer success manager as well. We're always happy to help you.
Andrew, I think we can head out. It looks like everyone has dropped out, but thank everyone for joining us today. And I hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Yes. Take care, everybody.